Hello, buddy. Welcome back to the Tinmans Court channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tinman Taylor, and today I'm going to be sharing with y'all another dream that I had, but this one is kind of like dreaming up a movie. And I'm talking about seeing another version of Miracle 34th Street, which I doubt they're going to make another Miracle 34th Street movie since the 94 one with Richard Attenborough did so well. So in my dream, I see advertisement saying that Hallmark, out of all people, ended up acquiring the rights for making a Miracle 34th Street movie. I was like, oh wow. But then when it aired in Christmas in July, and boy, was it different. So basically it opens up where Kris Kringle is walking towards the parade, and once he's walking by, adults and kids are just looking at him when he's walking by. And you see some of the kids be like pulling their mom and dad's clothes, like, is that Santa? And his beard is about as long as Sebastian Cabot's version from the 1973 version of Miracle 34th Street. Nice, white looking. He's wearing like a dark brown overcoat with a gray tweed business suit underneath and a black fedora. He goes to the parade and sees the Santa Claus having trouble whipping the whip at the reindeer. And of course, he's kind of drunk, and Chris notices it off right away. And instead of shouting at him, he kind of takes the butt end of the whip and goes like, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. He said, don't you realize that there's thousands of children waiting in line just to see you? And you're out here drinking? He said, you're a disgrace to the image of Christmas. So he goes and finds Miss Walker, brings her up to the drunken Santa, and she fired him right there on the spot and had some people carry him because he already passed out away from the parade. And Nick just said, I see you're in some predicament here, so I'll volunteer to be Santa for you. And she was like, oh, thank you. And they gave him a Santa suit to wear. Now, the Santa suit I saw in my dream he was wearing looks similar to, how do I describe it? It just looks like a standard Santa suit you buy off the rack, but the collar looks similar to Tim Allen's a little bit. And it was a nice looking suit, too. Like, hold on, I think I got an image pulled up to give you an idea what I'm talking about. It looks similar to that one, but with a Tim Allen fur collar around it. And then, after he gets done with the parade, he says that if they didn't mind, he was going to wear his own Santa suit. So that's when he gets to the store the next day wearing a suit like this one, but it had a rounder fur collar on the top, and it didn't have the Tim Allen style sash on it. But I believe the belt buckle was round like that, but it had a snowflake pattern, and it had gold trim similar to the suit. Now here's where it gets kind of weird. The department store that hired Chris as their employee had a competition going on with some other Santa Clauses, and a few of them had like nice looking suits, but some of them were like the off the rack ones, like I was just mentioning earlier. And I believe a few of them had like embroidered a Christmas wreath on this arm and like SC over here. And I think it was like 12 Santas plus Chris trying to compete with each other to see how many kids they can have visit them. Okay, that was a little different plot twist, but long and behold, everybody was going to Chris because he looked like the genuine article, because he is. And some of the Santas were kind of like huddling up to talk about him. Out of the 12, 6 of them huddled up and thinking, what can we do to get rid of this dude, while the other 6 was like cheering him on, like they liked what he was doing and giving him tips and everything. So there was no contest there. He won. And all the Santas left. And the kids just kept lining up to see Chris. until a girl that spoke French came up and make everybody go, "Oh, that's sweet." He knows her language. And then Susan Walker comes in to talk to him, and she already saw him talking to that girl. He said, "Well, I travel around a lot, so it comes pretty handy to know their language." And Susan's mom, Mrs. Walker, comes up to grab her because she thinks she's taking up too much of his time, and he didn't mind at all. She finds out about his employment card having like Kris Kringle, birthplace North Pole, next to kin, Dasher, like all the reindeer names. And she thinks they might be a little crazy and was talking about possibly firing him, but the guy that insists that he stays, they went to talk to the owner of the store because he was telling people where to go to shop for a better price. And the guy liked the idea because if you hired another guy, he wouldn't know what to do. One of the 6 Santas that were mad at Chris for winning the children over was trying to tell the kids that he's not the real Santa. He lives in a nursing home. So Elf and the store manager were like, "Really, you got to go now." He had to pull him over to the side and be like, "What are you thinking?" And he said he and 5 others were just upset that we didn't get to in that little contest you put up with the other Santas and Chris here. Well, it was just for fun, okay? You don't have to be jealous. So that guy said he couldn't do it no more, but the other 5 were like, they're still going to get even. So when the store closes, a few nights later, Chris is walking outside, and the 5 other Santas that didn't win the contest ran up on him, knocked his hat off his head, and just started teasing him. Be like, "Why you like doing it? Because it's the kiddies. You do it for the money," and start getting under his nerves until finally he had enough and just whacked each one of them with his cane and got his hat and ran off. But then they got the cops involved and arrested him. The guy that Susan Walker's mom started dating, it's not Brian Bedford like in the 94 version, and it's not like Mr. Gailey and the other versions. It was a different guy, Thomas Bedford. Anyway, he goes to talk to Chris and asked him why he did it, and he told him he believed in what he stood for and everybody else that visited him, even Susan and Mrs. Walker. And he failed the test on purpose, like he was letting himself and the other people down. So they said they were going to go to court to prove that he was Santa Claus and the whole thing was just a setup. So they go to court, and they do the usual, get Chris up on the stand, and he asked a few questions, and then had other people come up to testify. Even the little girl that visited him once, she said that is Santa right there. Then they had to bring out the whole St. Nicholas was a bishop of Myra, and he passed away and defamed him during Martin Luther's whole thing, just like the 94 Richard Attenborough movie. And it kind of got under Chris's skin. And then the district attorney brought up a guy that flew over the North Pole and said he did not see no dwellings. And that got under Chris's skin too. And they were about ready to put Chris in the mental ward for good. But Chris's attorney, Thomas, already got the post office to bring in all the Santa mail to the judge. And he said that the United States Post Office believed that this man is the one and only Santa Claus. And then he showed a dollar bill with the words, "In God We Trust," to prove his point a little bit further. And the judge said, some people believe in Santa's existence, some do not. It's a very touchy subject, but if the post office believes that this man, Kris Kringle, is Santa Claus, this court will not dispute it. Plus, we should trust him like we do in God. Case dismissed. Bam! Everybody starts cheering, like, yay! Chris meets up with Susan and Mrs. Walker outside with Thomas, and they were going to go out to eat somewhere, and he said, "Oh, I can't. It's Christmas Eve." And I said, "Oh, yeah, that's right. He's got to go make his toy run quick." But he said he'll arrive sometime Christmas morning and have breakfast with him. And he did. And he delivered some gifts to his friends over at the retirement home he was at. And he wrote down instructions for this nice colonial house that Susan wanted to get. And they drive down there, and sure enough, the house was magnificent, already been restored, had a swing in the backyard, and it was already decorated for Christmas, and it had their names on the mailbox. And the guy selling the house said he got a call from Chris saying that you two were looking for a house, and he helped them get it. And Chris came in and surprised everybody, and they were thanking him for getting this house for him. And he brought in some caterers, and Mrs. Walker and Mr. Bedford got married right there, because that's another wish that Susan had, to start a family with him. And it ended off right there. And I was applauding like it was a good rendition. And then I woke up. I was like, wow. I definitely don't think Hallmark would make a version like that. And I'm sorry that I kind of skipped over some of the major scenes that you might have seen in the other versions of Miracle on 34th Street, but I didn't want to make this video too long. But that's just what I saw in my dream. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more dream content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tinmans Quarter Channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tinman Taylor, and I said that's a wrap. And Merry Christmas early to all of you, and have a nice day.